Hello, welcome to the Papyrus Global TV. The Oracle at Bay. Is this the end of Nyesom Wike? In Nigerian politics, the end rarely means retirement. For a man like Nyesom Wike, the current Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, a political end would look like something far more precise: the collapse of the structure. For a decade, Wike has ruled Rivers State not just as a governor, but as the architect of an impenetrable patronage machine. However, recent events had seen that architecture is showing structural crack that no amount of political cement may be able to fix. The end in this contest is not a literal disappearance. It is the loss of control over rivers, diminishing influence within the APC, and the erosion of trust from President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Any of these would be serious, but combined, they suggest a historic shift in the balance of power. And how would he stand it? We will wait to see if it happens. For years, Wike's authority rested on a carefully constructed Rivers State political machine. As governor from 2015 to 2023, he constructed a disciplined political machine where loyalty was the currency. Dissent was punished, and elections were confirmation rather than contest. Party structures, the legislature, local government leadership, and key financiers were tied directly to him. By 2023, even after leaving office, his influence extended beyond the government house as Rivers politics, to a remarkable extent, still revolves around him. That is why the rupture with Governor Fubara represents more than just a personal disagreement. Fubara was not just an outsider imposed on Wike's system. He was produced by it. His rise from Accountant General to governor was designed to ensure continuity. Instead, Fubara has pursued autonomy, steadily removing Wike's loyalists from the key positions and signaling that Rivers State will no longer be governed through informal chains of command. For political observers in the state, this rebellion strikes at the core of Wike's power model. Once a successor successfully breaks free, the myth of total control collapses. What began as a quiet disagreement over control of state institutions has escalated into an open struggle for power survival. And this rupture matters because Rivers is not just Wike's home base. It is the foundation of his national relevance. Without Rivers firmly under his influence, Wike leverage in Abuja weakens dramatically. The conflict further entered a decisive phase in early January with Wike's January 5th address in Ukrika, warning that allowing Fubara a second term will amount to political barrier. Revealed a rare moment of public vulnerability, and barely 3 days later, January 8th, the Wike-aligned House of Assembly issued an impeachment notice against Fubara, citing unauthorized spending and structural demolition. On paper, Wike had the number, but the real test is not numerical. It is whether he can maintain elite consensus and public legitimacy in a state long accustomed to confrontational politics. A simple analysis of the impeachment odds is revealing. While Wike's loyalists dominate the legislature, the recent defection of two lawmakers signaled crack in what was assumed to be a solid bloc. Political analysts caution that Rivers' impeachment history is unpredictable, as numeric advantage alone does not guarantee success. Public legitimacy, intra-party dynamics, and federal tolerance are decisive. A failed impeachment could irreversibly weaken Wike, while a narrative on contested success could antagonize the presidency, raising the risk of federal pushback. This is another spot where President Tinubu's prior intervention in Rivers becomes critical. In 2025, Tinubu declares a state of emergency in the state, a move interpreted as a clear signal that the federal government would not tolerate prolonged instability. Observers suggest that Wike's current maneuver are being carefully weighed against that precedent. Any perception that the impeachment or his political tour threatens national stability could prompt the presidency to act decisively, limiting his leverage. The message is clear. Wike cannot assume that the presidency will remain passive in Rivers' spiral into unrest. If it persists, he might have to take a side or precise decision that might affect Wike or Fubara negatively or positively, which we are waiting to see. Fubara's response has further complicated matters. Rather than confront Wike aggressively, he has adopted a posture of calculated calm. His church appearance on January 11th, where he urged patience and framed silence as wisdom, is widely interpreted as strategic. By denying Wike the chaos that would justify federal intervention, Fubara is forcing his former mentor to act reactively. Rivers-based analysts note that this approach is a psychological maneuver as much as political one, as it is turning Wike's historical style of direct confrontation against him. The stakes are amplified by Wike's national positioning as Minister of the Federal Capital Territory. His role was secured largely through his instrumental support for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's 2023 victory. That alliance has shielded him from party hostility, but federal tolerance has limits. Tinubu's past decision to declare a state of emergency in Rivers demonstrated that the presidency will act decisively if political infighting threatens governance or economic stability. Reports of a Dubai meeting between Wike and Tinubu on January 10th are widely reported. If true, underscores that Wike's maneuvering in Rivers is not merely a local matter. It has become a national concern. The broader context makes Wike's recent tour of all 23 local governments in Rivers State particularly revealing. Officially, a post-election thank you, the tour is seen as inevitably a laid strategy which centers around testing grassroots loyalty, signaling relevance to Abuja and preparing the ground for 2027 elections. Analysts note that while he retains deep support among older party stewards, younger actors are hedging a sign that Wike's one autonomous base is now conditional. The tour thus reflects both strength and vulnerability. It can be seen as a show of force motivated by the knowledge that loyalty must be actively renewed. The true meeting point between Wike's ambition and his new structural reality was revealed in the chaotic impeachment dance of January 2026. After initiating a third attempt at ousting Fubara, the Wike-aligned assembly suddenly flicked with internal dissent. 4 key lawmakers, Sylvanus Nwanko, Peter Abe, Barili Nwanko, and Emilia Amadi, publicly withdraw their support for the impeachment, citing a desire for a political solution. For a brief window, it appeared the oracle's grip has finally slipped as the assembly failed to reconvene on January 5th, fueling speculations that Wike's legislative engine has stalled. However, this hurt was merely the prelude to a desperate reinforcement. Within 24 hours, the 4 lawmakers performed a dramatic public televised U-turn, rescinding their plea for peace and labeling Governor Fubara as incorrigible. They claimed their olive branch was met with media ridicule from the governor's camp, using this as a pretext to restart the impeachment machinery with a vote directing the state judge to empanel an investigative committee. This restart was Wike's attempt to show that his legislative loyalty was still intact, but it was here that he hit the judiciary deadbolt. Just hours after the lawmaker's defiant broadcast, a Rivers State High Court, presided over by Justice F.A. Febrisima, issued a sweeping interim injunction. The court didn't just stop the lawmakers. It specifically restrained the chief judge for even receiving or acting on the impeachment notice. This is where the odds become concrete. The calculus of Rivers crisis changed fundamentally the moment Governor Fubara came to the APC. This was not merely a change of party logo. It was the construction of a strategic iron dome. By joining the ruling party, Fubara has forced the presidency into a corner where it must choose between the personal loyalty of a minister and the institutional integrity of the party itself. Analysts point out that the APC led by President Tinubu is highly unlikely to set a precedent where its own sitting governor is impeached by members of the same party, and this is now seen in the order by the court. The odds against Wike are also codified in a blunt public rebuke from the APC national leadership, Senator Ajibola Bashiru, the APC national secretary, who reminded Wike that the anything goes tactics he perfected in PDP has no currency in the ruling party, that is APC. The national secretary's message was clear. The APC operates on a different frequency of discipline, and the minister cannot import his brand of disruptive politics into the ruling party structure. Because Fubara is now an APC member, the judiciary and the party centers are no longer neutral observers. The court's intervention acts as the procedural arm of the APC Iron Dome, providing the federal tolerance Wike so desperately needs, but is no longer guaranteed. Furthermore, the very lawmaker Wike once rallied on are now caught in a constitutional trap, having defected to the All Progressive Congress APC. These legislators are no longer independent actors. They are now subject of the APC constitution, which strictly forbids members from initiating drastic action like impeachment without the express approval of the National Working Committee, NWC, of the party. They are essentially handcuffed by party bureaucracy. If they move against Fubara without the center blessing, they risk immediate expulsion and loss of their seat. A gamble few are willing to take for a minister whose influence is being actively curtailed by the party elders and now the court. Finally, there is the optic of the street, where we can maintain a formidable apparatus through the local government chairman who can manage mobilization and fill stadium. The genuine organic support belongs to Fubara, as is being said. The massive, spontaneously demonstration following the initial impeachment attempt sent a chilling message to Abuja. The people of Rivers are no longer with the oracle for a president who values national stability. Allowing Wike to uproot a popular fellow APC governor would be political suicide in the Niger Delta. The odds are no longer just vague federal disapproval. They are a solid war of party law, institutional optics, and genuine public resistance. The oracle's last move. If the impeachment saga has proven anything, it is that Wike's political genius has always been less about popularity and more about pressure, leverage, and the ability to make institutions bend to his will. But the Rivers crisis has revealed a new reality. The old rules no longer apply. The moment Fubara stepped into APC, the battle moved from the streets and the state assembly into the party's internal corridor and the court's procedural machinery. What once looked like a war of personality has now become a test of institutional discipline and party loyalty. Wike can still command crowd, still orchestrate legislative maneuvers, still turn local government chairmen into mobilization machine. But the country has shifted beneath him. The APC's warning was not just a public rebuke. It was a declaration that the ruling party will not allow a minister to treat its structures like a personal playground. The lawmakers who once marched to Wike's tone now stand under the weight of party rule that can remove them as easily as they elevated them. And the court injunction has transformed the impeachment from a political attempt into a legal deadlock that will be difficult to break without a broader concession from presidency. This is the real tragedy of this crisis. Not that a governor might fall, but that the system is now showing its limit. The Rivers people may be tired of Wike and Fubara, may have the momentum, but the nation is watching a conflict that threatens to redefine the boundaries of power in Nigeria. If the presidency chooses to back Wike, it risks destabilizing the Niger Delta and eroding the APC's own authority. If it chooses to back Fubara, it risks alienating a minister whose influence still runs deep across the South. Either way, the decision will ripple far beyond Rivers State. And this is where the final question sits. Heavy and avoidable, does this crisis mark the end of Wike? Or does it mark the beginning of a new era where power is no longer personal but institutional? The oracle may still have a few cards left, and he has never been known for going down quietly. But the forces aligned against him, party discipline, legal restraint, and public sentiment are no longer vague traits. They are immeasurable obstacles that may finally prove too strong to overmaneuver. In the end, the most revealing moment may not be the impeachment notice of the court injunction, but the fact that Wike's fate now depends less on his own force and more on the patience of the party, the firmness of the law, and the willingness of the people to accept a new chapter in Rivers politics. Whether he survives this storm or becomes its casualty, the Rivers crisis has already changed the rule of the game. What does the end mean for Wike? It is not a literal exit from politics, as he has explicitly made sure the country knows he intends to stay and fight, asserting that nobody can remove him from his political grounds and that he is going nowhere. But it may mark the potential end to uncontested dominance. If impeachment fails, his authority in Rivers will slowly erode. As legislators and local power brokers hedge towards the sitting governor, if impeachment succeeds, he may achieve short-term victory, but at the cost of straining federal relationship. He risks alienating the presidency, inviting federal intervention or political isolation. If impeachment succeeds decisively, Wike may temporarily consolidate local powers, but at the risk of destabilizing national perception, a gamble he cannot afford. The recent defection of lawmakers to the APC only sharpens the uncertainty, showing that even victories carry cost. And for the first time in more than a decade, Wike is reacting rather than commanding. The oracle is not gone, but the era of absolute control, of loyalty enforced through fear and rewards, is under unprecedented stress. How he maneuvers this moment will determine whether he remains a political kingmaker in Rivers and Abuja or become a cautionary tale of influence disconnected from institution. In Nigerian politics, the subtle shift from controlling events to responding to them often mark the beginning of a decline. This has been the Papyrus Global Television.